Welcome everyone to the Go.Live Gaming Podcast on this beautiful March day. It's the 29th of March. Yeah, I already said that. 2018. Today I have the legendary, the grandiose, the magnificent Josh with me. I was thinking about who shall I name for this grand reveal or this grand entrance, but for some reason I can't hear you. Is that on my end?
No! Oh, I've screwed up my grandiose entrance, and my magnificence is now deflated massively. Hello, everyone. We're just going to ignore that happened, and let's carry on, Saj. Let's carry on.
I guess take back what I said, but sure. All right, we also have Raker, also known as Patrick, with us. Hey, man.
Yeah, I'm here.
Just, whatever I said in the beginning there entails to you and not Josh, because he screwed up, so that's how it works.
Yeah, now you say that.
That's how it works on this podcast.
Failure is punished.
Yeah, if you screw up, you get shunned. No, but today, or the Go.Live Gaming Podcast is, of course, the podcast where we talk about EA, Bioware, and Anthem. We may touch upon other topics along the way as well, since we just can't shut up about gaming. We're currently live on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Mixer. If you don't have time to stay with us the entire time, we do, or I will upload the VOD tomorrow, and then the audio podcast version will be up on Saturday. And also, if you enjoyed the show, then please send us an email to feedback@gunsofanthem.com. So today we are going to talk about A Way Out. Me and Chrome have played the entire game together. We're going to talk about Battlefront 2's revamped progression system. And we are going to talk about a new open-world Star Wars game that has been hinted. We don't know much at all about it, but there is some little juicy tidbits that we can touch upon. And we are also going to talk about Sea of Thieves, because the entire internet is talking about Sea of Thieves and Far Cry 5 at the moment. Like, I was trying to find interesting articles for this week's show, and every article or every other article was either about Sea of Thieves or about Far Cry 5. So, but we're not going to talk about Far Cry 5. That wouldn't make any sense. But Sea of Thieves we have talked about in the past, which makes it at least in a gray zone where I feel like, okay, well, let's just throw that in, because me and Chrome have played it, and Patrick have checked some footage and read up on the game. So that's what we're going to talk about. And I feel like the first thing that I want to talk about is actually the new open world Star Wars game. I don't think there's too much to talk about it here, but I am going to read a little bit from a news article from GameSpot touching upon this subject. So, Electronic Arts, this is from GameSpot's article. Electronic Arts is at work on a new open-world Star Wars game. If a newly discovered job opening is the indication. Although the publisher has shared little information about what to expect from the rebooted version of Visceral's game following the studio's closure, we may now have a clue as to what form it will take. The job listing discovered by GameSpot was recently published by EA's job site. It's for the position of a lead online engineer in Burnaby, in Vancouver, in the EA studio headquarters over there. And it makes no attempt to hide what the applicants will be working on. The opening sentence reads, "Lead a team to deliver online features for a Star Wars open-world project." The rest of the listing doesn't share much else, though there are references to the game being multi-platform, which is a little surprise, I guess, and a requirement to have experience implementing online features such as matchmaking, asynchronous interactions, live services, server host migration, and more. So When the Visceral studio was closed, Executive VP of EA Worldwide Studios, Patrick Sutherland, said, "Our Visceral studio has been developing an action-adventure title set in the Star Wars universe. In its current form, it was shaping up to be a story-based, linear adventure game. Throughout the development process, we have been testing the game concept with players, listening to the feedback about what they want to play, and closely tracking the fundamental shifts in the marketplace. It has become clear that to deliver an experience that players will want to come back to and enjoy for a long time to come, we need to pivot the design." And that was the reasoning behind actually closing Visceral Studios, if you didn't know about that already, and sort of canceling the ongoing project with Star Wars that they had. So this is, I've heard people say that they're reusing those assets to create an open world game or project, and this has been something that people are a little bit upset with, because it's an indication that EA do not believe in single player adventures anymore, and that this whole live service thing is something that they want to focus more on, since they actually canceled the entire project because of it. So, yeah. We don't know what kind of game we're looking at here, but it's going to have some multiplayer features and matchmaking and asynchronous interactions, whatever that means. It makes me think of, like, let's see here. What was that?
It's going to be something along the lines of, I can build a team and send them off on missions, and maybe they can, sort of go against other people's teams, and I don't need to be there. It's going to be set in a timer and yada, yada, yada. There's going to be something along those lines. I'm pretty sure if that's what they mean by asynchronous interactions. So
yeah, maybe.
But I mean, we know that the actual linear version of the game was actually based on there was a story loosely revolving around a very roguish character, and which sounded very interesting. I by the way, I just want to make it clear, I fall into the camp of people that really heavily regret the fact that this is not going to be the linear Star Wars story in probably what was likely to be the Uncharted style. That's a shame.
Yeah.
I'm suffering quite a lot from open world fatigue right now. So the fact that we got an open world live service Star Wars game, I'm not feeling it. I must be perfectly honest. But I mean, I don't want to go too heavily on this, but I just feel like we're going to pivot the design. By the way, can any developers come and help us with this, please? We're hiring. It's sort of it's almost like they're dancing on Visceral's corpse.
Yeah.
At this particular point. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a little bit torn about this one as well, because some of my more nostalgic and better memories when it comes to gaming are intertwined with like games like Jedi Outcast or Jedi Academy and other great single player adventures that had a multiplayer component, but the main focus was on the single player and the single player story. And
even Shadows of the Empire on the N64, I know it wasn't fantastic, but that Hoth sequence was the first time we really saw that in gameplay. That was stunning. That was a sort of watershed moment for Star Wars in games. Was the Hoth sequence in Shadows of the Empire. Amazing stuff.
Yeah. So we'll have to see where this takes us to. But yeah, they're hiring for this new project, and we have no news when we are to expect any other news or see anything from this. But I'm guessing that they are revamping the development of the game, maybe moving over some assets, you would hope, because that would sort of speed up the process. But that could be like they could be throwing out the old assets that Visceral had while working on their game as well, which would mean that we're probably a couple of years out from seeing anything about this news or anything else about this. So yeah, I don't know if that's interesting for you, then great. But I mean, it's just something that I wanted to mention before we go to the more juicier subject of this show this week. So we might actually just pick off Star Wars while we're at it. So, Battlefront 2. We're finally at where the game should have been when it actually launched. And that is that EA and DICE have revamped the progression system to make it where it should have been in the beginning. It's actually in a good place now. So if you have been interested about getting into Battlefront 2 and playing the game, then I can probably recommend it without feeling too guilty about it. But yeah, so I'm just gonna plain up read what we can expect from this update and what has been changed. So, with this update, progression is now linear. Star cards or any other item impacting gameplay will only be earned through gameplay and will not be available for purchase. Instead, you will earn experience points for the classes, hero characters, and ships that you choose to play in multiplayer. If you earn enough experience points to gain a level for that unit, you will receive one skill point that can be used to unlock or upgrade to the eligible star card you'd like to equip. You'll keep everything you've already earned and unlocked. You will keep all the star cards and whatever that has been already unlocked. You're not going to lose anything. Crates no longer include star cards and cannot be purchased. So this is a big one. Crates are earned by logging in daily, completing milestones, and through timed challenges. Inside these crates, you'll find credits and cosmetic items, such as emotes or victory poses, but nothing that impacts gameplay. Starting in April, you will be able to get appearances directly through in-game credits or crystals. So this was another thing that people were weirded out about. Like, why are there no cosmetic skins that I want to get for my characters? And that was EA sort of blamed LucasArts for saying, like, we can't mess with the art of the game. They won't let us, but now they're letting them. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, the first new appearances are coming soon, meaning you'll be able to grab new looks for your heroes and troopers directly by using either credits, those are earned in-game, or crystals available to purchase in-game through your first-party stores. If you've ever dreamed of being a part of the Resistance as a Rhodian, now your chance is around the corner. And the final words goes as follows. These changes are a major step as we continue to improve the core of the game and add new content. And there's a lot more to come. In addition to continued balance patches, we will also add a number of modes to Star Wars Battlefront 2 in the coming months, offering several standouts, brand new ways to play. Some of these, like the recently released limited-time Jetpack Cargo, are radically different than anything you've experienced in the game before. And we're excited to surprise you with what we have planned. And this had launched on the 21st of March, so it's and during the upcoming weeks you're gonna get more and more stuff added to the game. So basically, this is what the game should have been when it first launched. So yeah.
Yep.
I have only one question. How is the unlocking system for heroes? Does it still take too long, or have they reduced that?
Heroes are now fully unlocked for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it is. Star cards basically have an upgrade tree where you earn experience, which is class specific, and then you basically unlock the star cards you want, or you upgrade the star cards you already have. So that they've think of it more as being a Battlefield experience than the old Battlefront 2 experience. And as I said, yeah, heroes are fully unlocked for everybody. Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, but the damage that purchases have done are still in the game, though, because people that have already bought all the stuff kept it. I know you can't change that. That would be just stealing money, but it's damage that's permanently done to the game.
Yeah, but then again, like how the system is right now, you can still earn these star cards, you just can't buy them. And these star cards are basically the things that upgrades your ship or your heroes or your characters in different ways.
Yeah, what I mean is they have a leg up.
Yeah, but
I know what you
there's
mean.
that issue is still there. I'm not arguing against you. It's still there. Like a guy who's put 50 hours or 100 hours into the game is going to have a unfair advantage to anyone going into the game fresh right now. And personally, I don't like that. I've never liked that kind of game play, but that's not something new either. We've seen that in the past as well.
I think, right. Basically, I'm not going to congratulate EA for having done what they've done. I will, however, say thank you for being reasonable and putting it to a point it should have been on release. I'm going to say thank you for doing that. That shows that you're being responsible for it. We all appreciate it, right?
Yeah.
However, I would say that as you were saying about the progression system, if there's anything I was going to take away from this game, to everybody, we want progression in our games these days. That just seems to be a fact of people playing games in the gaming industry. The majority of us want something to work towards. We want to be able to improve ourselves, past not just from a skill level, a personal skill level, but from a character power level, right? That's why MOBAs are so popular, because you get that massive upgrade in a time frame of half an hour to an hour. I would say though, in my opinion, the way Star Wars has done it, the difference between a level 4 star card and a level 0 star card is so huge. Unless it's been rebalanced, I don't know. I mean, they could have been a little bit, but it's so huge. It's not a good progression system, full stop, in a game of this type, especially in a multiplayer game. And that, if you're going in fresh now, that's still there. But yes, I would agree that at least you know within a time frame that you're going to be able to get up to that level, where before you were shooting in the dark, or you'd have to spend a lot of money. So, yeah. It swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, agreed. So there's like the good thing about this is that there's no pay to win anymore, and that was the main issue in the beginning. That should never have been there, and it was an obvious flaw in the design of the game. But all of this does hold promise for the future, that we're probably not going to see any more of these missteps, because I think they've really learned their lesson. Otherwise, they wouldn't change the game in such a major way that they actually have. So that's all good. And I don't know. I played the game in the beta, and I really liked it. So I might jump into it again. We'll just have to see. Like, the core gameplay there was really good. Like, I didn't like being killed by people over and over that were statistically stronger than me and had an unfair advantage. That issue is going to be in the game, because that's just how the game is designed. But other than that, it's actually a really cool game. So
I've heard that. I've heard it's really good from just a raw gameplay thing. It's interesting, but I don't know if I'll jump into it myself yet. I'm on the fence.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm sticking to the old ones.
Yeah, I mean, if there's ever a really good sale on the game, I could say that you should probably pick it up now if you want something new to play there. All right, I am not sure we have anything else to say about it, which means that we should probably jump over to the sort of main part, I feel like, of the show this week, which is A Way Out. This is a game from Hazelight Studios. It's an EA Originals game, and me and Chrome have actually played the game from start to finish. And it's an interesting one.
Yes.
Starting off talking about the game itself, what kind of game it actually is. I could say that it's a story-focused game with puzzle mechanics. You could say, sort of, if Telltale made a co-op game, this probably would sort of what it would be. And I don't know, Chrome, how do you feel about the core gameplay mechanics? Do you feel like they're well implemented, or is there something
that's the question. That's the big one. I think if you hadn't have compared it to a Telltale game, that's exactly what I would have done, actually. That in a nutshell, that's kind of how it felt to me. To me, it was sort of a game of two halves, and I really don't want to get too deeply into the details of how that works, because as we were saying before this started,
I'm going to put a spoiler icon on the screen in case we move into territories that people would.
I mean, we're going to try and avoid the spoilerific territory, but this is one of those games where it's very hard to talk about any aspect of the game without accidentally dropping spoilers, right? It's difficult. It's one of those types of games. I mean, the first section of the game, everybody knows this. I think everybody who knows anything about the game knows that the game revolves around this prison break scenario, right? I think I could say that pretty safely. And, you know, but I don't think it's a spoiler to say that the game doesn't just sit in the prison. You know, there's a lot more to it than the prison, which is nice. That's good. So that's about a spoiler because I'm going to get today, right? But I would say gameplay, it's so difficult. There are so many things I don't like, and yet I want to say up front that I actually really enjoyed and appreciated the experience that I had.
Yeah.
But it was flawed.
Yeah,
really.
I mean, we were making fun of different things in the game over and over. Like there were obvious things where you sort of like there was a guard above you, and then you like peeled off a like a steel sheet or whatever, not steel, but yeah,
corrugated iron or something like
something
that.
Like that. Yeah. Right below him, and he didn't even flinch. And they're like, "Oh, like that doesn't make any sense." Like there were multiple times in the game I feel like where sound just didn't play into the equation at all, which was like,
that's it. It felt like Joseph Fares and his team wanted to make the story first, and they added the gameplay as a secondary thing to that.
Yeah,
and where there is gameplay, it sort of butts against the story. It's not quite. The gameplay doesn't feel like it is. Well, some of the time, the gameplay does not feel like it is part of the world and this immersive experience that you are sharing with your gaming partner. And it's like, and especially at the start, it's far too simple as well. I mean, it definitely is, to an extent, a cooperative game. There are going to be plenty of points where you need to time stuff. Well, maybe not enough, actually. I'm going to go and say that. There are not enough points where this actually happens. But there are those moments where you've got to sort of time button presses with your partner, or you both need to sort of cooperate to accomplish an action, whether it's pulling your partner up. You know, it's a classic thing, you know?
Yeah.
And other stuff. And then there are also sort of little side activities, which are nice. I mean, we'll talk about those more in a bit, I'm sure. You know, sort of little challenges and little arcade games that you can play. Those are really cool. Those are really fun.
Yeah.
But they don't properly tie into the story.
No.
And like I say, to me, it felt like you had this veneer of gameplay over the story. And then there are far too, now let's be perfectly honest, there are far too many yellow dots that you move towards and press E here to make something happen.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of hand-holding. Hand-holding. That's not correct English. In the game, it's certainly there. So I wouldn't, if anyone wants to play this game by themselves with a friend, I wouldn't go in expecting a great challenge when it comes to mechanics.
Yes.
I would go in for the story first and foremost. And I feel like even though there were a lot of parts where we were asking ourselves, like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Or we were like going like that over and over again. And even though that happened, towards the end, it felt like the game itself sort of made everything come together. Like they took this untangled mess and sort of slowly but steadily started to intertwine everything that you've gone through in the game and sort of make you end up in a place where you could accept more and more the things happening in the game to make sense.
It was almost like the Hideo Kojima method of storytelling in miniature, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, the way it all tied together.
Yeah, it did.
Sarge, can I chip in with my viewing experience in a bit that would be a little bit longer and in-depth, so you can also join in because I watched your gameplay.
Yeah.
So you can have a perspective from somebody viewing it.
Yeah, sounds
sure.
great.
Right now, or did you want to finish your thought first?
Yeah, if you want to, and I'd like to just chip in with the thoughts of my own, but then sure, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So without going into too many details, that's basically what I think about the game. Like in the end itself and the story itself, the way it progressed, was strong enough to make the game, like really the ending of the game made both me and Chrome feel a lot of stuff. And I feel like once you are starting to hit those feelings in many different ways, and you're sitting there feeling like, I'm not sure like you're literally questioning, how should I feel about this, then you've done something special. So they really managed to tie everything together. Like the beginning of the game was, in my opinion, kind of weak, and I wasn't sure what to feel about the game, but really the last like 2 hours or something really made it for me, and without it, it would have been really mediocre. But
yeah, I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think the ending. This could be dangerous. I would say that the ending was powerful enough. It made me feel some things. It made me feel a lot of things, but it also made me feel some things I didn't appreciate. But at the same time, that's fantastic. The fact that it actually made me feel something on that depth. Well played, Joseph Harris. Well bloody played indeed. That was really well done. And I think we also. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the story, but in general, not the actual plot points themselves. But I wanted to say that I think the story itself was decently well written. There were a couple of moments of brilliance, and those were balanced by a couple of moments that legitimately made Saj and I laugh. At some of the events that happened in the game. However, I would say the actual characterization that they managed to pull off with the main characters and the supporting cast, which isn't huge, is really, really well done. I think you'd probably agree with me there, Sarge, wouldn't you? The actual way they tie the characters' histories together is quite well done.
Yeah. I agree. Like the story is the strong part of the game.
In fact, I would say don't play this game if you're expecting awesome co-op gameplay. Play this game if you want to share a story that's really quite poignant with a partner. That's how you should go into it. That's how you should approach it, I would say.
Yeah, agreed. All right, if you want to give your experience as a viewer, Patrick, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about the first hour with hour and a half that you played, so the first gameplay session you two did, and I think the game starts really interesting. I like the characters from the get-go. The story is a little bit intriguing, but the gameplay in the first like 30 minutes is like nothing. You're really just walking around and doing stuff, but not actually playing. You're just walking. It's a hallway simulator.
Yeah.
And the characters are still interesting, even though the gameplay is that lackluster in the first 30 minutes. You get to know them. They get personality. I think personality that reaches deeper than most shallow characters. They get little details added to them that most people wouldn't even bother with, like phobias, for example. And I think that's a nice touch for developing them. But then there are some things that are, I don't know why they are so tedious. There are many gameplay moments where I thought you could have done it once, but they did it again. And dragged it out way more than it should have been. I think, Sarge, can I give an example which doesn't really relate to the story much?
Yeah, sure.
There was a scene where they want to catch a fish because they're hungry, and you have to do it twice. And I'm asking as a viewer, and I don't know how it was for you guys, but I'm asking why this tedium? Why 2 times? That adds just 10 minutes of nothing. And
Yeah.
I thought those moments were just didn't have to be. And another thing that they really could have added that would add gameplay to the game itself would have been options for solving the puzzles. There was in the first hour there was a guard Sarge was talking to, and from the angle he was talking to, he wanted to do something, and you can see it in the video. But the game is concentrated that way that he automatically moves to the position the game wants him to talk to this guard. So the game actively works against you if you're trying to be creative. And that's the thing that I found kind of sad. And most of the puzzles I saw this far were one-way solutions. I don't know if that changes. And the last thing I want to touch upon was, I think, big missed opportunity just to flesh the characters out even more. There was a scenario where I don't want to get into spoilers. So a character was uncomfortable, but instead of using this character trait to its whole effect, they just pinched it in as talking. So they discussed what happened or what is happening, but they didn't use it in a gameplay way, and they could have. I don't know. I would like to talk about it, but I don't know how comfortable Sarge is with this spoiler. It would be. I just say the bridge scene.
The what? The
bridge scene.
The scene with where they're on the bridge. Can I touch on that, or is it too spoilery?
Yeah, the scene where they're on the bridge. Like, do you mean when you had to make a choice?
Yeah, but not the choice itself. That's not what I'm interested in.
All right. Yeah.
Well, to be honest, the choice itself is the important bit. So I don't think I don't think it'd be too spoilery, Sarge, if Reika gave his example here, would it? Or
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean,
I'm trying to spoil as little as possible.
I mean, I think we get what you both. I think we understand where you're coming from as well. To be honest, though, so it's all good. Sarge, do you want to go first on that? If you got anything to say, or
I'm just trying to figure out. But sure, we have the spoiler warning up. Just to explain where we're going from, because I'm not really following. Like there is a gameplay mechanics, like, but you're basically just progressing from one side to the other while they're talking.
I wanted to go into something. I don't know the names anymore. There's a character that has a phobia, a height phobia.
I'm gonna hold my finger up while you are talking about this, and when it lowers, people can listen again if they really don't want to know. Yes. So here we go.
Yes. So the Leo character himself has he's afraid of heights, and I do agree that that wasn't used enough. I feel like. Exactly. It feels like there was something with the camera while I was doing stuff that made it feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it could have expanded on that, like making me have to struggle to get over different things just because of his phobia of heights. That is something that I've also agree it was missing. It was weird that they didn't play more on it, because they mentioned it over and over and over in the game, but it never really had any impact from what I could feel to the actual gameplay. So yeah, that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I think that would have been the perfect place. At some point, I think someone is struggling to get up again, and that would be perfect if Leo was the one that had to deal with it, becoming more stressed. The phobia could have been really something that adds to the gameplay itself in this moment, and I think if they had done this scene would have played out much nicer.
But I'm going to counterpoint this while I got my finger raised, so this very heavy spoiler warning still in effect here. Saj, would you agree, though, that knowing what you knew about Leo, as we progressed into the game, there were some choices did affect, not in the gameplay, well, not really in the gameplay, not really in the story, but it did affect, it did play on that fear of heights, and the choice was, do you want to do this action, which Leo will be comfortable with, just from a story perspective, or do you want to do this action, which Leo is very much not comfortable with from a story perspective? Do you think that actually had an impact on our decisions there, really? You know, is that what they were trying to do?
Yeah, they were trying to make, but I feel like they could have, like, if you make that uncomfortable decision, there should have been more impact towards Leo and his fears, and make that being shown in the actual gameplay, so there is actually any repercussions, because like you're just making two different choices, which has a little bit of a different twist when it comes to the story, but the gameplay itself just progresses like it has the entire game, sort of. So gameplay wise, I didn't feel like the choice itself affected anything.
It did feel like a sort of a shallow, as you say, a shallow trait just to drive history home for the character, and the gameplay with it was undercooked. I'm going to lower my finger now.
Wait.
Oh, okay.
just one bit. I think if they had made you playing Leo uncomfortable, even as the player himself, you would have been harder on the choices later, and that could have really drive the point home, because when it's that character driven, you want to feel the impact of the character, and if you're feeling uncomfortable, you're gonna choose otherwise next time.
Yeah. I mean, like what we're discussing right now is, I feel, the strongest point toward me not giving the game a excellent or fantastic rating, because.
Shall I lower my finger?
Yeah, I think you can.
Yeah.
But I feel like that part that we already discussed is the reason why the game did not feel as good as it possibly could, because like any of the choices in the game do not hold any real weight. Like you are only given the illusion of it having any sort of real repercussion in the game, but you're really not. And the only real, like, when everything feels like it's getting on the entire different scale of making an impact and actually feeling like something important is in the end, which I don't think you can impact too much with those decisions. Like, there's not any real branching paths, but they're building a really well-made illusion of, like, if you're being able to push yourself to the limit here and actually sort of overcome this obstacle, then it's going to give a different outcome that is going to be beneficial to your character. And that felt really heavy and really impactful, but the other decisions in the game didn't, which sort of creates this dissonance in the entire experience of the game, which still, like, the ending is so well made, like, that ending lifts up the entire experience, but I feel like for it to be like a 10 out of 10 experience, that impact and that thinking they had at the end of the game should have been a red thread through the entire game, which it wasn't.
Yeah. I would like to say that I agree with you, but I would like to also offer a counterpoint as well to what you've just said, because I definitely agree wholeheartedly with what you just said.
Yeah.
And that I think, as you say, it was sort of a lot of the game leveled an illusion of choice at you. And there were one or 2 points where it did diverge, but it very quickly came back to the same moment. So, you know, that happened. I think we can agree that was the thing. But having said that, I think for me, the thing in my mind that makes that a sad thing is a case of, would I want to replay this game? And maybe I'd want to replay it playing as the other character, maybe. But ultimately, I would say that the game doesn't actually have a vast amount of replayability. But from that one playthrough we did, I can look back and I can actually quite fondly say, oh, we made this choice, and this choice. So I still have my personal experience, or our personal experience of going through the game, which will be slightly different to other people's experience. And so I would say, even though, I mean, I think a lot of it stems from the fact that if Joseph Fares probably wanted to make a game which was so impactful. He and his small team would have had to make 3, maybe 4 different games, and you might not see, you might not even see 2/3 of the content unless you replay it a few times, if you know what I mean. And that's the same with Telltale games as well. Telltale and other sort of episodic adventure games very much suffer with this problem, even though obviously A Way Out isn't episodic. But I would say that, there is a dissonance. But you need to, the way I choose to look at it is that we did have this experience, and this was our experience, and this was not. And I think you had, I think somebody you knew was watching the stream, Sarge, they'd had a different experience. And I think there's still something to be said for that, even though it was an illusion, so to speak. So,
By the way, I have a quick question because I'm unsure. You only see your point of view when you're in the game, not both screens like I did.
Always see both screens at once.
See both screens.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Mm.
So there's no real play value because you saw what the other one did, and button presses are not really replay value.
The button presses aren't. Sorry, go on, Sarge. Carry on.
Yeah, I feel like actually there is some sort of replay value there because the characters themselves have so different personalities in a way that playing them, like, I really felt connected to Leo. I wanted to play as Leo, and I wanted to make decisions that would make sense for Leo. And I felt like you sort of went into the same role there, Josh, where you...
I was role-playing Vincent, very much, yeah.
So there is that connection to the characters that makes you... I feel the experience would be different. I'm not entirely sure for me personally that it would be different enough to actually warrant a replay of the game, but I feel like there's replay values there. Certainly if you play...
I feel like there's merit. Yeah, I feel like there would be merit in swapping roles and going again.
Yeah, and certainly if you're playing the game with someone who hasn't played the game, that could open an interesting sort of avenue to the game as well, I think.
Okay.
May I also address very quickly? I know it was a while ago, but if I could also address, do you mind, Saj, if I address Patrick with a couple of points he made as a viewer? Is that all right? Have we got time for that?
Yeah, sure.
Because one of your points, so you made 2 points that I sort of clued into, Patrick. One was rigid gameplay, pretty much, where you said, and yes, you're absolutely right. There were times with the gameplay where it felt like there could have been very, very easily multiple solutions to a problem, and the game just kind of slides you into one, and it is awkward. You're right. There is a little bit of distance between the immersion of the story and the gameplay. As we've been saying all along, I agree. I definitely agree. Yeah. However, as for character development, it's funny you should say that, because I think, as Sarge and I said, you pretty much watched the first hour, and the character development really kicks off after that point, which is a shame, but it does. So it's worth sticking with it, just to get the full picture.
Yeah, and do you guys maybe have a score, not definite, but so roundabout? What would you say the game lands at?
Oh,
yeah, that's a hard one. I gotta say, but for me, it's probably around if I would have to, somewhere around a 7 out of 10, somewhere like that.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like, God, that's so awkward, isn't it? It's like...
Then I just ask, money well spent?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I mean, the story was strong enough, and the adventure was good enough for it to feel worthwhile. I just go looking back at the game, and there were stuff that were flawed. I can say that much. So I couldn't give the game a perfect score, but it's still, like, those things made us laugh, and they had their own charm, their own weird charm. So
funnily enough, I think as we were sharing the experience of those moments where it got incredibly janky, it made it much, much more comical than it would have been if we just sat there and it's like, God, I spent money on this. I'm sorry, well, we played with Friend Pass, or I did. I got very lucky on that front.
Yeah.
But, it's... I mean, I agree. I would say it was... If I absolutely had to give a score, and I hate scores, incidentally, then, yes, 7 out of 10. That comes with the context that if you're looking for gameplay, not for you. No, it's not. It's not your. This is not the cooperative game you want to play. If, however, you want to progress through a game and share an experience with somebody, then it is the strongest 7 out of 10 that I could possibly give, especially on the merit of the ending. It's so worth experiencing.
Yeah.
But you need to know it's not a perfect game, as you said, Sarge. It's not perfect at all.
Yeah, and as a viewer, I can definitely say it's interesting enough to keep watching.
Yeah, I feel like as a viewer experience or as a game where you play it online on a video, it's certainly fitting for that format. So it feels like anyone pitching in or going in, actually interacting with us, or just viewing it, I feel like they should have had a decent experience because it's just one of those games. So I certainly agree that there is, like, if you don't want to buy it yourself, then certainly watch it because it's worth it. But I feel like it adds to buying the game because you can partake in the decisions, even though that they are basically illusions. It
Yeah, and you can
adds
talk
to
to more people, for example. There
Yeah.
are a lot of people you may missed or just didn't bother, and if you want to play it yourself, you can talk to everyone you see.
Yeah.
I think my takeaway is, and of course, let's be perfectly honest, we would love you to watch our content. But I would say if you're in the position to play it blindly, to actually play it blind, I would do so. I think you probably agree, Sarge, as well. I don't know if but yeah, I would play it. I would choose to play it personally. That's my take.
Yeah.
After watching the first hour, I wouldn't play it myself anymore. But blind, I'm on the same side.
But that's the thing, though. The last 2 hours of the game make everything else worth it. So even if you watched until that point, I feel like there's value to actually playing the game yourself because the ending.
And those are very different 2 hours. Saying that.
It is. Like, those last 2 hours sort of make the whole experience feel, it lifts the entire experience overall. So if you watched to that point, I feel like there's still value in actually getting the game and playing it for yourself if you don't want to get the ending spoiled for you, like watching a YouTube video. Just because of how...
But I like listening to you guys.
Yeah, I'm not saying you shouldn't watch our content. Hopefully after the stream, we should have the second part up. It's been processing all day. For some reason, it doesn't want to stop processing.
It was a long segment. I mean, it's quite a chunky segment.
Yeah. I think we went past the 3-hour mark, so. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like that's a way out. It's a janky experience, but certainly an experience that I'm glad that I have. Have experienced. And the game itself, we haven't actually talked about that. The fact that you're forced to play this game in a co-op setting, I feel like they didn't use that to its full potential. Far off the mark, actually. I feel like there were many times there that the opportunities were missed, and there were some scenes, especially in the end, that were really cool. Like you were switching cameras back and forth between the characters, and that made it feel really alive. And I really enjoyed that, and I feel like that could have been something that they used more. But
just adding to that, I think oftentimes when co-op game splits the two co-op partner, it's like two people playing games separately, and that's not the idea of the game. Whenever you were split up in the jail, it was like both of you were playing different games.
We were playing the story, not the game at that point. I think. Yeah, you're right.
All right, that's enough. That's a way out. If you want to check out the game yourself, there is going to be a link in the description of the VOD later, where you can go and buy the game. Otherwise, it's on Origin, since it's an EA Originals game. All right, the last topic that we're going to talk about is Sea of Thieves, and I just need to let my cat out of the room because he's making me insane at the moment. He's standing behind me like,
say anything.
So, Josh, why don't you give us your opinions of
Yarr.
Sea of Thieves, and I will be back in a second.
Okay. So Sea of Thieves is a game that I have thoroughly... Well, how best to put it? I've played Sea of Thieves with the Xbox Live... Well, the Xbox Game Pass, which is fantastic because the Xbox Game Pass has a 14-day free trial, and as I have learned with all Xbox crossplay titles, obviously this is crossplay between the PC and the Xbox. If you actually sign up to the Game Pass, you will get all the Xbox titles that are crossplay on the PC as well. So I have been enjoying Sea of Thieves for free on the PC with the 14-day free trial of the Game Pass, and might I say, I'm glad that I played it for free. That's my very first impression. Right, how best to put it? I would say, basically, I played 3 sessions of Sea of Thieves, all a good few hours each. I've played once with SajCon and a couple of friends of ours, and I played with various friends of mine in various different groups. And the overall consensus is that it's a beautiful looking game. The artistic direction is wonderful. The actual core cooperative gameplay in that game is absolutely spot on. The actual basis they have is fantastic. I mean, the way you pilot the ships, somebody is at the wheel, and how best to put it? It feels good and it feels tactile. Now, to describe what I mean by that, you have to hoist the sails. You've got to angle the sails. You've got to steer the ship, and you're not steering a car. You know, the ship takes a while to respond to what you're doing, so you've got to sort of figure out the wheel. You've got to navigate. You've got to repair the ship. You've got to bilge the water out when you take hits or in a storm. And what I mean by tactile is like, let's say I'm bringing down the sail. I will go over to the sail station, and I want to lower the sail or unfurl it or hoist it. And rather than just pressing a button and going, well, I want it at half mast or I want it at quarter mast, which will allow me to turn the ship faster. No, I've actually got to sit there and hold the button down until the sail totally unfurls or until I want to sort of roll it all the way back up. And to me, the amount of coordination you have to do between the various members of your crew, which is up to 4, especially on the galleon. There are 2 boats. There's a sloop and the galleon. The sloop is up to 2 people. The galleon is up to 4 people. The amount of coordination you have to do is what really sells the core mechanics of the game. It's superb co-op. Unfortunately, what you are doing in the game is currently so shallow, and I've heard the term sort of wide as an ocean, deep as a puddle, I think, going around. is absolutely true, because there are 3 main paths of quests you can do. They all have you going around to various islands, collecting things, finding treasure. That's great. But the depth of those quests never really increases. They do get more complex. Sometimes you have riddles to solve. Sometimes you'll find a message in a bottle on a beach. But that's it. Now, maybe you'll do... there are raids in the game, which are infuriating, just simply because of the aim-botting bloody skeletons. But...
But to be fair, I feel like that was the strongest. Like we had most fun during that.
We had the most fun, but I did a raid again later because that raid that we went on was halfway finished, Saj, and then I went on a raid later from Fresh, and actually combating the skeletons was not fun. It was not fun at all because they could just literally 180 no scope you from across the island, and obviously, you talk about that a bit. I mean, feel free. So my impression of Sea of Thieves is that I had a really good time with what I played. But until they add more content, and I played probably 12 hours, which is probably more than a few people I know, until they add more content, I feel absolutely no need to come back to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when they add more content, hey, I'll just sign up with Game Pass for £8.99 and play a few more hours. That seems reasonable, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm not sure yet. But I would not buy this for £50 or $60, whatever it is. No way.
No, I mean, I feel like if I actually bought the game up front and didn't use the trial on the Game Pass, I would have been quite sour by now because
yes,
that experience wouldn't have been worth that price tag. Now, I do have to say though that the foundation that is there, the foundation for the co-op gameplay, especially if you're playing with a synchronized group like we did, like we were never destroyed in a actual fight. We took down multiple ships, and just because we had quite good teamwork, and it felt awesome. Like the teamwork and the co-op mechanics in the game are great, and the base mechanics of the ship combat is amazing. But that's also the only good part about the game, which makes it like I wonder where they were hoping the game to go. Like if you compare it to something like Guns of Icarus, like in that
Love
game,
that game.
in that game, the focus is on the combat. The focus is on the flying ship to ship combat, and if that would have been a mode in the game, I feel like that could have been really fun. Like if you had only that, you're like dropped in a sea with multiple ships, and you have to take out the ships, and there's some sort of progression involved with that. Like after each game, you get something, or you get new skins and all that, and you can do it over again. That would be a great game. But now it's an open world sort of sandbox thing where there's not any progression in the game. There's no reason for you to keep looting and keep questing. Like, yeah, you can get really cool skins, but those skins do not make it feel worthwhile of actually putting out in the time commitment, because you have to put in a pretty extensive time commitment if you want to get the cool stuff. And that's just frustrating. The grind is just frustrating in the game. And it's weird. Like, I don't understand how it was missed during development. Like, surely somebody should have said to them, like, is this all?
And I think the only reason they felt the Game Pass is the only reason they've justified launching it as they have. But sorry, that's interruption.
Yeah, because that's the only saving grace of the experience is the Game Pass. If the Game Pass hadn't existed, I think we would have a lot of more sour people on our hands. But every review and every opinion that I've heard about the game says the same thing. Like, just what we've said.
That's my part. I'm the internet's opinion and the viewer's opinion.
Sorry, Patrick. Oh, okay, we'll get there.
All right, but yeah. So I really, really love the core mechanics of the game. I just wish that it was more nicely packaged.
And I will add to those core mechanics just before Patrick chips in with the internet's opinion. That when Saj and I, and also in the other games we had, actually something that was really interesting is the game I had with you, Saj. We had loads of other ships on the ocean with us, didn't we? And then I played 2 more sessions, and it was practically empty, and that changed things so much. But the third game I had was all right actually. But the other thing that is amazing is that when you've actually got loot, you have to store it. You have to stow it on your ship.
Yeah.
And then we actually went through some really tense moments where, well, we've got a crap ton of loot on our ship. We need to kind of get back to a port, but maybe we could just go and get a bit more loot from over there. Oh, hang on, there's a ship. No, this is getting tense. This is getting really intense now, because the other players can come onto your ship, steal your loot, or sink you, and then salvage the loot that floats to the surface.
Yeah, love that mechanic as well.
That was amazing. Yeah, but at the same time, what am I doing with the loot ultimately when I get there? I mean, unless you want cosmetics, as you said, what's the point in loot?
Yeah.
There isn't. It's... Oh, I wish there was more. I really wish there was more. I'd love to spend a lot more time on that game, but right now I can't.
Yeah.
So, carry on.
Yeah, so I watched a few reviews of the game and many gameplay videos, because if you're watching the right people, it can be really fun, because they're role-playing, they're having these interesting scenarios that they set up themselves, and it can get really entertaining. But most of the people hit on the same points as you. Many said the depth, if you want to experience everything in the short amount of time as you can, is like 4 hours, then you
Yeah.
have seen the content and that's it.
That seems reasonable.
Many people were disappointed with the Kraken. I don't know if you guys know this, but there is nothing underwater. Those are just the tentacles from the water, but there's nothing under it.
Oh.
So there's no actual Kraken. They didn't bother to animate or make the physics engine for him.
Yeah, when the Kraken actually spawns, the sea itself goes all dark. So once you're in the water, it's really hard to see. But you can actually swim beneath one of the tentacles, and there's nothing there. So,
yeah, that's a point they often hit on, the monotony of the game, because there's nothing. And one big point they criticized is because PvP is one of the more interesting things in the game and can be very entertaining the way you go about it. There's no reward for it. There's no reason to attack another ship, and there's no harm from getting attacked. Because the loot you have, as you already stated, is only for cosmetics.
It's pretty worthless,
and, that's it. So, you respawn, like, what is it, 30 seconds later or something?
Oh, I take such issue with that respawn system, but that's another story.
Yeah, there's no loss when you get blown up by another ship.
Yeah, I don't really agree with that statement, because we had, like, we did the skull fort and we got a lot of loot, and while we did that skull fort, we were battling another ship, and we won against those guys. We won against the skull fort. We loaded everything up, and then accidentally the ship sunk a little bit later.
We sailed into a storm without realizing, there were holes in the midship.
And if that sort of soured the experience, because we spent like at least an hour doing that, and we lost all the, even if it's minor progression, we lost everything in that.
We lost thousands and thousands worth of doubloons.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, but not only that, you just lose cosmetic stuff. But when are you really in danger of losing? Only after you have actual loot.
Yeah.
If you're getting attacked any time before that or something,
no, then
nothing.
It doesn't make it like there's no repercussion to it. But that's why I feel like when you don't have any loot, that's when you go on the offensive and trying to sink ships, because then you can steal loot from others, and that was actually probably the most fun part of that experience. Like going in with a coordinated attack and taking down a ship and then stealing their stuff.
That was great.
Was great.
I was steering, and then it was like, oh, everybody, we need sails on half. Oh my, we've just been hit. Somebody needs to go and check whether or not we're taking on water. Oh, get on the cannons on the starboard side. I'm going to make a pass. Oh, that was great. That all at once.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. Yes.
Yeah, but another problem is not knowing if the other ship has loot or not. I mean, sometimes you can guess depending on which island they're going to or coming from, but you can never be certain.
But I kind of like that gamble though. Like at times, if you sink a ship and there's a lot of loot, you're like, oh, jackpot! That's so amazing. But if there's actually no loot, then you're like, oh, okay, we sort of wasted our time there. But it feels like it's worth the encounter, because the PvP encounters are actually not that long. Like they usually. It depends on if it ends up in a chase. If it ends up in a chase or not.
I would like to make a small complaint actually about PvP, simply on these grounds, because the actual ships have got a really brilliant, in my opinion. It's what it should be, a really awesome damage model, where if you can actually land cannon shots below the waterline, you will sink the ship a hell of a lot faster. But in the third experience I had, we finally had an experience. Where we had our crew of 4 on a galleon versus another coordinated crew of 4 on a galleon. It was pointless. We might as well have just been fighting a war of attrition. Whoever ran out of cannonballs or planks to repair first lost. And there was no way either of us were sinking before that happened, and that would have taken forever. Yeah. We were outmaneuvering each other to the point where we couldn't board each other, and it was just we just mutually broke off. That was it. That was it when done. And on that topic as well, while I agree, one of the highlights of what we did, God, actually assaulting. This was with Saj and our crew. Assaulting that skull fort was amazing, and I felt battered after that first hour.
Yeah,
but what really annoyed me is that the sloop, and it was a sloop that was badgering us all the time. It was the same sloop again and again and again. Oh.
I mean, like, once you take down their ship and once you kill them, there should be some sort of mechanic that stops them from being able to be back at the same spot 5 minutes later. That annoyed me because we took them down like 2 or 3 times, and they just.
It was 5. It was 5 times at the end.
It might, it might have been 5 times, but in the end, like, it just became an annoyance. So yeah, that's certainly something that I feel like they should patch out of the game. Like, if your ship is destroyed and you both are killed, then your group should be placed in another instance, like another server group, so you're not.
Agree.
Yeah, so you're not in the same. Like, yeah. There should be a repercussion there. Like, I was thinking, no, but maybe if that happens, you can't get back to a place where your ship sunk and get your loot back. But then again, there should be more repercussions to actually losing a fight. So not being able to get your own loot back if your ship sunk actually makes more sense for me. I feel like that penalty should be there.
Yeah, I just want to finish my statement from the internet and myself. All that negativity aside, the internet and I myself say it has a really great foundation, as you guys already said. So I don't want to drag this game down way too much. It's a fun game. It looks fun. It looks great. For me, in the Windows Store, it's at the moment at 69.99 euros. That's way too much. Yep. At a lower price, it would definitely be a worthwhile experience, and it's not a terrible game.
But that's
I think there's promise, and I really hope that they continue to develop it, and it becomes what it should be in the future.
I feel like I could say, play the game in about a year's time. It's probably going to be a great experience by then. But right now,
the best advice.
Yeah, I feel like the best sort of description that I've seen it so far is that it's an early access game disguised as a full release.
Oh yeah,
that's the experience you're gonna get. It feels like there's stuff missing. Like if I could explain the game with one sentence, that's it. It feels like there's stuff missing. So yeah. But
Sea of Thieves.
Let's Sea of Thieves. We might get back to that one in the future and see if it gets better or not. It's still
getting back to it with Game Pass.
Yeah,
one thing I still have to say, since I think the 26th of March, there's a problem at the moment with the Game Pass. If you get the Game Pass for free, but want to download the game itself, you get a download error. That's for most of the people. You can search it in Google. There are many threads. I don't know when it will be fixed. They definitely said it wasn't intentional, so they're not just pushing people away from getting the Game Pass for free and playing Sea of Thieves. It is definitely a bug, but at the moment you can't download it. You can get it, but don't download it.
Fair enough. That's good to know.
All right, good enough. That's actually it for the main part of the show. Like, I feel like I could sit here and talk for another hour about these topics because it turned to a really interesting discussion. And also, Way Out, I could probably talk even more about that game. But we do have our gameplay session up on the channel, and after this, the entire thing should be up on the channel. So if you don't want to buy the game yourself and you want to hear our or me and Josh's sweet voices during the gameplay, then you're more than welcome to check that out. I feel like it's worth taking a look at. At least I feel like I could say that. Yeah, I'm gonna say that. But yeah, we're gonna move over to the last segment of the show, and I'm gonna skip the transition here because we're gonna move into it. We're going a little bit over time right now.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so in this last part of the show, we're going to tell you what you should or could or maybe want to do until the next episode of the show. Because everybody knows that between the shows, there's nothing, there's void. And there's some stuff that you could fill that void with, and that's what we're going to give you suggestions to be able to do right now. So let's start with Patrick, shall we?
Yeah, I benched the first 2 seasons. I'm not quite done with the second season of Gotham, Batman's beginnings, more or less, or how Gotham turned into the place it later becomes when Batman actually steps up. It's quite interesting. It develops most of the characters pretty good. There are some that have jarring transition that makes no sense, but most of the people they showcase are really interesting. Following people like the Penguin is very captivating. Following Bruce Wayne himself is interesting. Or Jim Gordon, the main protagonist of the show. Some other people like Barbara Keane are not that good, well made in the show, but it is definitely worth watching. Better than the other DC series, I think.
All right. Josh.
Yeah. I've got a couple of gaming suggestions for everybody this week. A game I've been meaning to play for a long time, that I walked into my local supermarket, and there it was for £20, where usually it's 28, and that is the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy for the PlayStation 4.
Man.
And I've been wanting to play it for a while, and I've been looking at it with a little bit of trepidation, because, there's that whole nostalgia thing of, was it really as good as I thought it was when I played it on the PlayStation? Oh, yes. So if you have a PS4 and you haven't actually picked up the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, it's a very unique platformer, and it's great. It's wonderful. Definitely have a look into that. The second game is a PC release that is on Steam and is currently early access, but don't let that put you off. It's called Deep Rock Galactic. And now, Sarge has actually mentioned this a few episodes ago, I believe, sir.
Yep.
However, I have played it. I've put in quite a few hours already now.
Yeah, I've seen.
Yes, and it's wonderful. It really is fantastic. If you enjoy sort of co-op horde mode shooters like Left 4 Dead, Vermintide, even stuff like Killing Floor, then definitely consider this, and consider this quite strongly, because even though it's early access, there is a lot of gameplay here, and it's currently priced just under £20, so whatever your regional equivalent might happen to be. But it's very unique in its premise. You are a band of dwarves who've got to go down and basically mine minerals. Now, bear with me here. I know this is starting to sound like Minecraft with dwarves. It's really not. You've got to mine minerals in a world that is quite reminiscent of something like the Vermintide swarms, or Tyranids from Warhammer 40,000, or even the Geigerish aliens stuff. And these swarms will pop out of nowhere in these randomly generated caves, which are so diverse. It's a testament to how well they're doing this. And every single dwarf doesn't just bring different weapons, they bring new ways to traverse the levels. So your gunner brings zip lines the entire team can use. Your driller can drill new paths that your dwarves can take. Your engineer can create platforms. Your scout can zip around on his own little grappling hook. And that it changes that formula little, but those small changes make a massive difference. And right now, it plays incredibly well. So even though it's early access, jump in there. I'm considering upgrading to the Supporters Edition just to support the company making it, because it's great. So yeah, have a look at Deep Rock Galactic, everybody. It's great stuff.
Since it is an early access title, how do you feel like it is content-wise? Does it warrant a purchase
I would
already?
say that I could very happily, I could easily see myself getting 80 hours of play out of this.
Oh, really?
Before I would hit a wall and say, well, okay, maybe I need some more now.
Oh, really?
And they're going to be developing it for the next couple of years, and the updates have been pushed out quite quickly. So I see a lot of hope for this game, really.
Yeah. That does sound promising.
It's worth playing.
All right. So this week, I'm actually going to, since we've talking a lot about the Game Pass, and we do have other services that are similar to it, and since we are an EA-focused the podcast, I'm actually going to recommend the Origin Access Pass. Why? Because there's a lot of great titles on here. I'm just gonna read from what can I see here. Like if you get the Origin Access Pass, Right now I have it in Swedish crowns, which doesn't make too much sense for other guys, but like it's about $5 or $6 US dollars a month, and per year it should be around, let's say, 30, I would say. And the games that you get, it's quite amazing what you get here. You get access to Titanfall 2, which is a hell of a game. You get access to Mass Effect Andromeda. Now has been critically panned, but there is a really fun multiplayer aspect to the game, which I can really recommend if you are into the Mass Effect series. You get The Sims 4, the original. You get the original Battlefront. You get FIFA 7, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, the original Titanfall. Battlefield 1 is actually included in the Origin Access pass. You get The Witness, you get the... is that the N7 trilogy? I feel like it might be. Like the first 1, 2, 3 Mass Effect games. You get Unravel, Garden Warfare 2, FIFA 16, Battlefield 4, Need for Speed, Crisis, Battlefield Hardline, Lost Castle, Torchlight 2 is a good game. Dragon Age Inquisition, didn't really like it, but it's still a good game. Like, there's some real good value here if you haven't played a lot of these games. Dead Space is another one, and Dead Space 2, really like those games as well. Dragon Age Origins is also on there. So the value that you're getting with the Origin Access pass right now, like I haven't been able to recommend it before because I didn't see any point in actually getting it. But right now, you're getting a lot for that money. And there's a lot of titles on here that you should play, like the Mass Effect trilogy. Come on. Also Titanfall. It's a really interesting take on a multiplayer shooter. And yeah, so that's my recommendation. A lot of games on there. But I feel like we're moving towards a future where these access subscription styles are going to be more and more common. And right now, if you are subscribed to this one and to the Xbox Game Pass, then you get games like you can use that one for PC. By the way, we've said that we've used it, but I'm not entirely sure if that's clear to people that you can actually.
Currently, the games I've seen on Game Pass for PC, apart from Sea of Thieves, you can also get Gears. The ones that really stood out to me were Gears of War 4 and Halo Wars 1 and 2. That's currently really the PC lineup.
Right. So the Game Pass might not be that attractive when it comes to PC. But it's still an option there. And I think Twitch, the Twitch Prime subscription has something similar there as well. So if you have 2 or 3 of these subscriptions, you have access to hundreds of insanely good titles now. So I think that's a really nice thing that we're moving towards, a really nice future in gaming. Like a lot of these titles may have held little to zero value for these companies, but right now I feel like they should have more value since people are probably backtracking a lot more due to these new services being pushed. So that's my recommendation for this week.
I can't help but feel like you cheated with all those games, though. Yeah. I mean, we got at me for doing 3 1 week.
Yeah, I felt like I was sitting here like, should I only recommend the Mass Effect trilogy or Dragon Age Origins or Battlefront or I don't really know. But
the entire thing. It's fine.
Yeah, let's go with the Access because that actually makes me able to recommend everything. So that's All right, that's it for the show this week. Thank you for watching and tuning in. If you're listening or watching the VOD or the podcast version of the show, then thank you as well. If you did enjoy the show, then leave us a email at feedback@gunsofanthem.com or hit us up at Twitter or on Facebook. And as I said, the VOD will be able on YouTube tomorrow, and the podcast version will be up this Saturday. So you have something to watch and entertain yourself with during this upcoming Easter weekend. So yeah, that's all I have.
Mm-hmm. Have a very good Easter, everybody. If that's your thing, have a good one.
Yeah, have a great time.
Yeah. And now we're going to sit here for another 15 minutes thinking about the sacrifice that Jesus made for us.
I'll just go and play Crash Bandicoot. It's fine.
So disrespectful.
Eat a chocolate egg. It'll be great.
All right. Yeah, so that's it. Bye, everyone.
See you later.